It's Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day weekend, and folks, we've got breaking news in relation to the massive jailbreak that took place 11 days ago down in New Orleans. Just yesterday, 3 of the remaining 5 fugitives would be apprehended. And before we talk about these 3 escapees being caught yesterday, I want to share something else with you that you may not be aware of. And this actually took me quite a bit of digging to stumble across this. But do you know, it was May the 16th, the early morning hours of a Friday, 11 days ago, when these 10 prisoners would escape from the Orleans Parish Justice Center in New Orleans. But did you know that prior to that escape taking place, there was another escape attempt, not only in the same city, in the same jail, in the same month, but also hatched from the same cell block, Pod 1 Delta, which is the same cell block that these 10 prisoners would ultimately escape from. Headline that reads, 2 inmates tried to escape weeks before massive jailbreak, court records show. Tevin Arbuthnot, 25, and Demetrius Favaroth, 20, were arrested attempting to escape the jail Thursday, May the 1st, court records show. You know, while reporting on all of these escapes that I've been sharing with you guys, you really have to dig to make sure that you're finding the correct information, because in relation to this right here that I'm sharing with you, this happened on May the 1st. For whatever reason, there's been mention of these guys being apprehended on the same day where the 10 prisoners would escape, May the 16th. However, I don't really feel like there's anything to that. This escape attempt took place on May the 1st, and again, from the same exact pod where 10 prisoners would successfully escape from. And if you're looking for any more absolutely outrageous proof of how out of control the judicial system is down in New Orleans, this particular jail, where all of this is taking place from, literally has prisoners falling out of the damn ceiling. New Orleans, just weeks before a massive jailbreak involving 10 inmates, 2 others at the Orleans Justice Center allegedly attempted their own escape. Tevin Arbuthnot, I know I'm butchering that, 25, and Demetrius Favaroth, 20, were arrested on Friday for attempting to escape the jail on Thursday, May 1st. Maybe the arrest warrants came out on May the 16th, the same day where 10 prisoners would escape. But the initial escape attempt took place on May the 1st. The 2 were accused of trying to break out of the same pod, Pod 1 Delta, that the other 10 inmates did last week. During a court hearing, it was said that Favaroth was trying to push Arbuthnot through the ceiling, and when he got inside the ceiling, he fell through. Hey, where's Arbuthnot at? Anybody seen Arbuthnot? Crash! Boom! Here he comes. Falling out of the ceiling right in front of you. Could have been how this took place. Could you imagine if this was captured on surveillance footage? It's raining prisoners inside of this facility. Arbuthnot's bond was set at $500,000 for attempted simple escape. Favaroth's bond was set at $100,000. That's all the information they have about that. But definitely wanted to make you aware of something you probably hadn't heard of. With so much coverage involving the 10 that did successfully escape, you probably never even knew that a prisoner fell through the ceiling trying to escape just 2 weeks prior in the same pod. How were the proverbial alarm bells not ringing when that took place? No idea. 3 more of the 10 who escaped New Orleans jail recaptured in Louisiana and Texas. Folks, we're down to the final 2, Derek Groves and Antoine Massey. And again, Antoine Massey potentially being the mastermind who had 3 additional escapes on his record. Derek Groves has multiple murder charges or murder convictions on his record. And Antoine Massey has a rape charge and other pretty bad shit that he was locked up for. It's plausible to say that the final 2 remaining escapees could potentially be some of the worst of the bunch. But we're almost there, with 3 just getting apprehended yesterday, and only what I believe hours apart, one of which who was arrested in Louisiana, probably not too far away from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and then 2 others who were actually caught together in a car in Texas. 3 more escapees from the Orleans Justice Center jail were captured Monday outside of New Orleans. Lenton Van Buren Jr. was caught Monday in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Attorney General Liz Murrill announced. Folks, I've seen reports that say Van Buren Jr. was apprehended while sitting on a park bench outside of a department store in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Somebody saw him, somebody called it in. Are they going to be eligible and entitled to that $20,000 reward money? We've also shared in a previous video, and I believe that was yesterday, that Van Buren Jr. has at least one of his family members who has been arrested, and I believe it was his father. I believe it was Lenton Van Buren Sr. who was arrested in connection with helping to aid and abet Van Buren Jr.'s escape. Fellow fugitives Leo Tate and Jermaine Donnell were apprehended in Walker County, Texas, just north of Houston. Louisiana State Police confirmed Monday's 3 arrests mean Derek Groves and Antoine Massey are the final 2 fugitives still at large from the 10 who escaped the New Orleans jail shortly after midnight on May the 16th. A $20,000 reward still hangs over each of the remaining fugitives' names for information that leads to their recapture. I also question, with these 3 who were just apprehended yesterday, and with so many civilians, I think the count is now up to 13, who have been arrested in connection with helping these guys. I'm wondering if it's any of those who have been arrested who actually gave up some information that led to the capture of these 3 most recent escapees. Keep in mind also, there was like a 6 or 7 day hiatus between any escapees being captured. The last escapee captured prior to these 3 was the youngest, in fact, Corey Boyd, 19 years old, and that apprehension took place last Wednesday. While we're on the topic of the youngest, Corey Boyd, I want to share some information with you guys from another story about this escape that sheds a little more light on a few of these individual escapees and just what they were incarcerated for. Let's start with Corey Boyd. A woman by the name of Dawn Cook, a truck driver, was at the wheel of her rig on Friday morning when she got a call from someone at the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office telling her that Corey Boyd, the man accused of killing her son last year, had broken out of jail. He said there'd been an escape. Cook, 71, recalled. He didn't have any details. Around the same time, she also got an automated text from a jail messaging system notifying her that Boyd, who was charged with murder, was no longer in custody. If she needed help, it said, call 911. Yeah, that's helpful right there. Said that he's no longer in custody. These son of a bitches from the jail couldn't even send out a correct automated message to victims and families of the victims, letting them know exactly what happened. Hello, you've got a collect call from the son of a bitch has escaped. Talking about he's no longer in custody. What do you mean he's no longer in custody? Had she not gotten the phone call prior from the district attorney's office, what the hell would she have been thinking? The news made her more mad than scared. On April 29th, 2024, her son, Mr. Brandon Fees, was on a porch in the Marengi neighborhood with his girlfriend when they saw a group of people breaking into cars, according to police. Fees, 38, confronted them. They argued, and one of the suspects shot Fees. Boyd then struck Fees with a car, authorities say. Boyd, 19, who pleaded not guilty, had been in jail for nearly a year before he escaped, and the case was nowhere near going to trial. The killing was caught on surveillance footage, but it took 4 months for Boyd to be indicted. And since then, the case has been slowed by postponements and arguments over the sharing of evidence. The holdups infuriated the mother. I've been angry for a year now, Cook said. There's a lot more to this than this escape. This is just too much. This information just really paints the picture of the judicial system as a whole down in the state of Louisiana and especially in New Orleans. You know, it's probably Louisiana as a whole We just had another escape take place in another jail involving another young prisoner who escaped for yet another time from the same facility during the same exact dates of the year. Literally just 1 year apart. Folks, I actually just ran across a little bit of surveillance footage of that escape, where one prisoner helped the other scale a fence and then dash off to freedom. Now, luckily, that prisoner has been apprehended as well, too, but just think of everything taking place down in New Orleans. Prisoners are literally falling out of the ceiling in the jail, and then 10 prisoners do successfully escape about 2 weeks later. And it also sounds like the court system down here is quite flawed and in shambles as well. Let's talk about another one of these escapees, Derek Groves, one of the final two still at large, convicted of opening fire on a 2018 Fat Tuesday party, killing Jamar Robinson, 26, and Byron Jackson, 21. Groves and a co-defendant were first found guilty in 2019, but a new law requiring unanimous jury verdicts forced a retrial in 2023. What? A new law forcing unanimous jury verdicts? Correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't it been for the longest time that all it takes is the majority of the jury to find a person guilty, or is it that way in most states? I'm not entirely certain in regards to that. But a new law requiring unanimous jury verdicts forced a 2023 retrial, which collapsed when a juror broke court rules by reading news accounts of the case. The second trial that year ended with a deadlocked jury. Finally, in October of 2024, a new jury found them guilty. My God, these guys went to court 4 times for the same shit. Groves' escape galled Robinson's relatives. The family said in a statement that they heard about it from neighbors at 9 a.m. on May the 16th, the day that these guys did escape, before anyone in law enforcement reached out to them. This breakdown in communication has only deepened our grief and added to the pain we are already enduring, the family said. As a precaution, the family temporarily left the city. The relatives accused the Sheriff Hudson and her jail staff of allowing the escape to happen. We say allowed because these inmates were essentially handed a get out of jail free card as if this were a game. So again, Monday's apprehension marked the first big victory for the multi-state manhunt in nearly a week. 6 days had passed since Corey Boyd was recaptured last Tuesday, becoming the 5th escapee then who was returned to custody. Since then, authorities had arrested 11 other people accused of assisting the inmates' escape, booking them as accessories after the fact to the escape. I've read that number is now up to 13. Many of which we don't even have mugshots for. There's another woman that's been arrested as well, making the total 13 now, a woman by the name of Diamond White. Louisiana State Police said Tate and Donald were arrested by agents from the Texas Department of Public Safety. Again, both of them, Leo Tate and Jermaine Donalds, were together in Texas, making this the farthest that anybody has escaped from the jail who's been apprehended at this point. But they were pulled over in a vehicle in Texas. Baton Rouge police, acting on a tip, stopped a man wearing a mask. Law enforcement told the news. The man was detained and later identified as Linton Van Buren Jr. Damn, he almost got away. How silly you got to be feeling right now, the day after you've been reapprehended. Was the escape worth it? What do you think these guys were able to accomplish in these 11 days that they were fugitives? Probably not enough to make all of this seem like it's worth it. But I guess it doesn't really matter. You know, was the risk worth the reward, or at this point feeling stupid about it? No, none of that matters for most of these guys, because all of these guys were locked up for very serious offenses that were certainly going to send them to prison for decades. I think it might have been Van Buren who had the least charges of any of the escapees. Van Buren is charged with a parole violation, possession of a firearm by a felon, and illegally carrying a weapon. He will face additional charges related to the escape. Shit, even with that parole violation and the possession of a firearm by a felon, Buddy was looking at some prison time. He may have only been looking at 5 years, which he's probably looking at an additional 5 years given this escape. So in his particular case, he may be the only one where the risk might not have been worth the reward, and maybe the only one who's feeling like a big dummy sitting in jail again, knowing also that Linton Van Buren Sr. is also sitting in jail. I wonder if there'll be cellies. I wonder if this guy's feeling any regret at this point, knowing that he probably got his father locked up as well. One final thing I want to share with you guys in relation to this latest 3 fugitives being apprehended is the distance in which they were caught in relation to the facility they escaped from. Linton Van Buren Jr., caught in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, from the Orleans Justice Center. You're looking at roughly about 90 to 100 miles away. On foot, that would take 32 hours to get there, but it's only about an hour and 15-minute car ride. It looks like Leo Tate and Jermaine Donald, caught in Walker County, Texas. That is roughly 412 miles away from the Orleans Justice Center, making that obviously the furthest that we've heard of any of the escapees making it thus far, and still were apprehended, given they were almost halfway across the country. Being caught in Texas was ultimately their plan to flee to Mexico. And not that it matters because we know that they didn't do this, but let's just say hypothetically they were to walk from the Orleans Justice Center to Walker County, Texas, where they were apprehended. We're talking 149 hours that walk would take you. Only 1 day on a bicycle. I'm getting all of this information from Google Maps right now, but roughly 6 hours in a vehicle. That's got to be a long and stressful ride, hoping that you don't get pulled over. And for what reason, why were these two actually pulled over in Walker County, Texas? Did someone recognize them at a traffic light? Maybe at a gas station they had stopped at. Those guys look familiar. Hey, wait a minute. Aren't those the 2 escapees from Louisiana? Who knows? That's all the information that I have right this second. Wanted to bring this to you as quickly as possible. I've been trying to keep you guys up to date with everything in relation to these escapes, and I'm grateful that you've allowed me to share all of this with you. I hope this was a video you enjoyed. If it was, please leave a like and a comment on this, letting me know exactly what you thought about this. And if you did find interest in this video and you're not yet subscribed here to After Prison Show, please consider doing so and turning on bell notifications so that you never miss an upload. Folks, that would go a long ways to helping to show support for this channel and would also be greatly appreciated. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted and make the most of every day. Peace!